The Galactic Council had watched humanity for 3 years. They sent small ships to hide near Earth's sun. They listened to human radio signals. They studied human wars, human music, human languages. Ambassador of the Collective wrote a long report about these strange creatures. She told the Council that humans were weak. They were young. They had only learned to travel between stars 50 years ago. They were not a threat to anyone. The Council believed her. Why would they not? Humans were small and soft. They lived short lives. They fought each other over small pieces of land and silly ideas. The Council had seen 1,000 species like this before. Most of them died out. Some of them became useful servants. None of them became important. Then everything changed. Scout Commander was a soldier. He had 4 eyes and green skin that looked like stone. He had guarded the border of Council space for 20 years. He had seen pirates, smugglers, and lost traders. He had never seen anything like the thing that appeared on his sensors that morning. His ship's computer made a strange sound, looked at his screen and felt his blood turn cold. Something very large had just come out of fold space. The computer tried to measure it, but the numbers kept changing. The thing was too big. The sensors could not understand it. Flew his small ship closer. He needed to see this thing with his own eyes. When he finally saw it, he stopped breathing for a long moment. It was a ship, a warship, but it was like no warship he had ever seen. It stretched across space like a sleeping beast. His computer finally gave him a number, 12 kilometers long, 12 kilometers. The biggest ship in the Council fleet was 2 kilometers. This thing was 6 times larger. The ship was covered in weapons, counted gun platforms, missile tubes, and strange devices he could not name. The hull was thick and dark, made of metals his computer did not recognize. When he tried to scan inside the ship, his sensors showed nothing. The hull ate his signals like a hungry animal. On the side of the great ship, painted in white letters, were human words. His translator worked on them for a moment. Then it gave him the name. Unyielding Dawn. His hands were shaking as he sent a message to his commanders. He did not know what to say. How do you explain something impossible? He simply sent the sensor data and waited. Inside the Unyielding Dawn, Admiral Park stood on the command bridge. He was 62 years old. His hair was gray and his face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He had served in Earth's Navy for 40 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had buried friends and enemies alike. Now he commanded the most powerful ship humanity had ever built. The bridge was huge and quiet. Hundreds of officers sat at their stations, watching screens and checking systems. Everything worked perfectly. The ship was ready. Lieutenant sat at the communications station. She was young, only 28, but she was one of the best communications officers in the fleet. She looked up from her screen with worried eyes. "Admiral," she said, "the alien ship is sending signals to its fleet. They sound scared." Nodded slowly. He had expected this. "What are they saying?" "They are warning their commanders. They say a giant ship has appeared. They do not know what it is or where it came from." Paused. "Sir, they are calling for military support." Some of the officers on the bridge looked nervous. They were far from home, surrounded by unknown aliens with unknown weapons, but remained calm. He had planned for this moment for years. "Open a channel," he said. "All frequencies. Send our message in every language we have learned from their signals." His fingers moved across her controls. "Channel open, sir." Straightened his uniform and spoke clearly. "This is Admiral Park of the Earth vessel Unyielding Dawn. We come in peace. We seek only to make contact with the Galactic Council. We mean no harm to any species. Please respond." The message went out into space, received it on his small ship. His translator turned the human words into his language. He listened to them 3 times, trying to understand. The humans said they came in peace, but their ship was a weapon of war, a weapon bigger than anything he had ever imagined. Back on the Unyielding Dawn shook her head. "No response, Admiral. The alien ship is moving away from us. More ships are coming from deeper in their space. Watch the tactical display. Small dots were appearing, moving toward his position. The aliens were gathering their forces. They were afraid, and afraid creatures often attacked. Hold position, ordered. Keep our weapons cold. Do not power up any offensive systems. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander, looked up with surprise. Sir, if they attack us. They will not attack, said with confidence. Not yet, they are too curious. They need to understand what we are before they decide what to do. He smiled slightly. Fear can be useful, Commander, but only if it leads to respect. If we show them we are not afraid, if we show them we do not need to threaten them, they will begin to wonder. And wondering is the first step toward talking. Nodded and kept her hands away from her weapons controls. The unyielding dawn floated in space, silent and patient. Around it, alien ships gathered like small fish around a whale. They watched, they waited, they tried to understand. And somewhere in the great council halls of Nexus Prime, leaders of 12 species received the same message. A new player had entered the game. Nothing would ever be the same again. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful building in known space. It was made of living crystal that grew slowly over thousands of years. Light passed through its walls and created rainbows on every surface. Leaders of 12 species sat in a circle beneath a dome that showed the stars themselves. Today, no one was looking at the beauty. Every eye, every sensor, every attention was fixed on the holographic image floating in the center of the room. It showed the human ship, the unyielding dawn. It rotated slowly, and with each rotation, the council members felt their fear grow stronger. This is impossible, said Minister of the Union. He was a tall creature with 6 arms and skin like blue metal. Our reports said humans could barely build ships that traveled between stars. How did they create this monster? Ambassador's tentacles twisted with shame and confusion. She had written those reports. She had told the council that humans were not dangerous. Now this ship made her look like a fool. I do not understand, she admitted. Our spies watched their shipyards. We saw nothing like this. They must have built it somewhere we could not see. High Speaker slammed his armored fist against his seat. He was the leader of the militant hegemony, the strongest military power in the council. His people were born warriors. They had conquered 100 worlds. They feared nothing. Until now. It does not matter how they built it, growled. What matters is what we do about it. I say we destroy it before they build more. Several council members made sounds of agreement, but others looked uncertain. The delegate, a small creature covered in soft fur, raised a tiny hand. High Speaker, with respect, how do you plan to destroy it? Our largest dreadnought is 2 kilometers long. This ship is 12 kilometers. Our weapons may not even scratch its hull. His compound eyes flashed with anger. Then we send 100 ships, 1,000 ships. We have numbers on our side. Do we? Asked quietly. We have studied their transmissions. They call this a Titan-class warship. The word class suggests there are others, or that they plan to build others. She paused to let that sink in. What if this is not their only giant ship? What if this is just the first? Silence fell over the chamber. The council members looked at each other with new fear in their eyes. One ship like this was terrifying. A fleet of them was unthinkable. The door to the chamber opened and every head turned to look. A human woman walked in, flanked by 2 guards in dark uniforms. She was small compared to most of the aliens in the room. Her black hair was tied back neatly, and she wore simple gray clothes with no decorations. But she walked like she owned the room. Chancellor Sira was humanity's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. She was 45 years old. She had been a diplomat for 20 years, and before that, she had been a soldier. She knew how to talk and she knew how to fight. Today, she hoped she would only need to talk. Honored Council, she said, and her voice was calm and clear. Her translator device turned her words into a dozen languages at once. "Thank you for allowing me to speak." High Speaker leaned forward. His voice was harsh. "You bring a weapon of war to our border and then ask to speak of peace. Do you think us fools?" Sira did not flinch. "I think you are wise leaders who understand the universe, High Speaker, and wise leaders know that the universe is dangerous." She looked around the room, meeting eyes with each council member. "We humans learned this lesson the hard way. We nearly destroyed ourselves. We poisoned our own world. We killed billions of our own kind in stupid wars." She paused. "We do not wish to make those mistakes again, but we also will not be victims." "Victims?" asked. "Who threatens you? We did not even know you existed until recently." Sira smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Ambassador, your spies have watched us for years. Your ships have entered our space without permission. You studied us like animals in a cage." She held up a small device, and suddenly the hologram changed. It showed images of alien ships hiding near Earth's moon, near Mars, near the outer planets. "We found all of them, every single spy ship you sent." The council members shifted uncomfortably. They had thought their surveillance was secret. "We did not destroy those ships," Sira continued. "We watched them watching us. We learned from them. We studied their technology, their signals, their languages." She lowered the device. "And we prepared. The unyielding dawn is not an attack. It is a message. It says that we see you. We know you are out there, and we will not be easy prey." Stood up, his massive body casting a shadow across the floor. "Pretty words, human. But words do not win wars. If we decide to destroy your little world, what will you do?" Sira looked up at him without fear. "We will fight, High Speaker. We will fight until the last human is dead, and even then we will find ways to hurt you from beyond the grave." Her voice was soft but hard as steel. "But that is not what we want. We want trade. We want knowledge. We want to learn from you and share what we know. We want alliance and friendship." She spread her hands. "The choice is yours. We can be partners or we can be enemies, but we will never be slaves." The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, sat back down. He did not look happy, but he looked thoughtful. "We will discuss this," he said finally. "You may wait outside." Sira bowed her head politely. "Take all the time you need. We have waited 50 years to reach the stars. We can wait a little longer." She turned and walked out, her footsteps echoing in the crystal hall. Behind her, the council began to argue, their voices rising and falling like waves on a troubled sea. Outside, Sira allowed herself one small smile. The first move had been made. Now the real game would begin. 3 months passed. The Galactic Council argued and debated. Some wanted to welcome the humans. Some wanted to destroy them. Some wanted to simply ignore them and hope they would go away. Nothing was decided. The unyielding dawn remained at the border, patient and silent. Admiral Park kept his crew busy with training and maintenance. They held drills every day. They kept their weapons ready but cold. They watched the alien ships that watched them, and they waited. Lieutenant spent her days listening to alien communications. She learned their codes, their slang, their fears. She heard council officers call the human ship the monster and the nightmare. She heard soldiers boast that they were not afraid while their voices shook with terror. She reported everything to Admiral, and he listened carefully. "They are still trying to understand us," he said one evening, looking out at the stars from his observation room. "They have never seen anything like us before. We do not fit into their categories." "Is that good or bad, sir?" asked. "Both," replied. "It means they are uncertain. Uncertain people sometimes do foolish things, but it also means they might be willing to learn." He turned to face her. "Keep listening, Lieutenant. The moment their tone changes, I want to know." The tone changed 3 days later, but not because of the council. Burst onto the bridge with alarm on her face. "Admiral, emergency signals from the council fleet. Something is attacking them." Moved to the tactical display. Red dots were appearing across the screen, dozens of them, then hundreds. They were coming from deep space, from a direction no one had expected. "Identify," he ordered. The computer worked for a moment, then showed an image that made several officers gasp. The attackers were not ships in the normal sense. They were living things, huge creatures with metal shells and organic weapons. Each one was the size of a small moon, and they were pouring into council space like a swarm of hungry insects. The whispered, "I have heard stories about them. They are parasites. They eat entire planets. They have destroyed a dozen civilizations." Watched the screen with cold eyes. The swarm was heading toward a council colony world. Millions of innocent people lived there. The council fleet was trying to stop the swarm, but their ships were too small, too weak. They were being torn apart. "Sir," weapons officer said, "this is not our fight. The council has not even accepted us as allies. We could leave now, return to Earth." "No," his voice was firm. "If we leave, those people will die, and the council will never trust us again." He straightened his shoulders. "Set course to intercept the swarm, maximum speed." The unyielding Dawn turned and began to move. Its massive engines lit up the darkness like a second sun. On the council ships, sensors detected the human ship changing course. Messages flew back and forth. What were the humans doing? Were they running away? Were they joining the fight? They got their answer when the unyielding Dawn arrived at the battle. The human ship came out of faster-than-light travel directly in front of the swarm. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The giant creatures looked at the giant ship. The council ships stopped fighting and stared. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Then Admiral gave a single order. "Fire!" Lieutenant Commander had waited 3 months for this moment. Her hands moved across her controls like a musician playing a beautiful instrument. The unyielding Dawn woke up. Along the ship's spine, massive gun platforms turned toward the enemy. They fired beams of energy so bright that nearby sensors went blind. The beams cut through creatures like fire through paper. Explosions bloomed in the darkness, one after another, each one larger than a city. Point defense systems activated, filling the space around the ship with thousands of smaller shots. Fighters, small creatures the size of houses, flew toward the human ship in waves. None of them got close. They died by the hundreds, then by the thousands, their bodies burning up like insects flying into a flame. The main cannon spoke. They fired solid projectiles, chunks of metal moving at incredible speed. Each projectile hit a carrier with the force of a small nuclear bomb. The carriers, creatures that had survived attacks from entire fleets, simply came apart. Their shells cracked. Their organs spilled into space. They died without even understanding what had killed them. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, the swarm had lost 39 carrier creatures and over 16,000 fighters. The space around the colony world was filled with debris and organic matter that would drift for years. The unyielding Dawn floated among the destruction, barely scratched. A few scorch marks decorated its outer hull, nothing more. On the council ships, officers and soldiers stared at their screens in complete silence. They had just witnessed something impossible. A single ship had destroyed an enemy that would have required their entire combined fleet to defeat, and it had done so in minutes, without effort, without mercy. Lieutenant looked up from her console. "Admiral, the council flagship is sending a message. They want to speak with you." Nodded slowly, "Put them through." The face of High Speaker appeared on the main screen. The proud warrior looked different now. His arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. "Admiral Park," said, his voice rough, "I believe we need to talk." Allowed himself a small smile. "Yes, High Speaker, I believe we do." Behind him, his crew began to breathe again. They had sent their message. Now the galaxy knew what humanity could do. The question was, what would they do next? Ambassador had never been so nervous in her life. She stood at the entrance of a human shuttle, waiting to board. Behind her, Her two assistants were shaking so badly that their equipment rattled. She could not blame them. They were about to enter the ship that had just destroyed an army. The shuttle door opened, and a young human woman greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome, Ambassador. I am Ensign Song. I will take you to Chancellor. Please follow me." Had expected soldiers with weapons. She had expected dark hallways and cold metal. Instead, the shuttle was bright and comfortable. There were soft seats and gentle music playing. The young ensign offered them drinks and snacks for the journey. "You seem surprised," said as the shuttle lifted off. "I expected something different," admitted. "Your ship destroyed thousands of enemies yesterday. I thought it would feel more violent." Laughed softly. "The unyielding Dawn is not just a warship, Ambassador. It is home to 12,000 people. Families live here. Children go to school here. We have gardens and parks and restaurants." She looked out the window as the great ship grew larger. "We built it to protect life, not just to take it." The shuttle entered the ship through a massive hangar bay. Eyes went wide. The hangar was bigger than some space stations. Hundreds of smaller ships were parked in neat rows. Thousands of humans moved about, working, talking, laughing. It looked like a small city. Chancellor Sira was waiting for them at the hangar entrance. She wore simple clothes, and her smile was warm and genuine. "Ambassador," she said, "welcome aboard. I hope your journey was comfortable." "It was," replied, still looking around in amazement. "Chancellor, I must confess, this is not what I expected." Sira nodded understanding. "Come, let me show you who we really are." They walked through the ship for hours. Sira showed everything. They visited the hydroponic gardens, where vegetables and fruits grew under artificial sunlight. They saw the schools, where human children studied mathematics, history, and alien languages. They watched families eating dinner together in common areas filled with plants and artwork. They visited the medical bay, where human doctors treated injured crew members with gentle hands. They saw the recreation areas, where people played sports, watched films, and simply relaxed. Everywhere they went, people smiled at them and waved. "I do not understand," finally said. "You have the power to conquer. Your weapons could destroy fleets. Your ship is larger than most space stations. Why do you fill it with gardens and children instead of more weapons?" Sira led her to an observation deck that overlooked the ship's central atrium. Below, children were playing a game with a ball, their laughter echoing up to where they stood. "Ambassador, let me tell you a story," Sira said softly. 200 years ago, humanity almost destroyed itself. We had built terrible weapons, bombs that could burn entire cities in seconds. We pointed those weapons at each other, and one day we almost used them all. Listened quietly, her tentacles still. "We came within minutes of ending our own species," Sira continued. "The bombs were ready, the orders were given, and then at the last moment one man refused to press the button. He chose to wait to check to be certain. That pause saved us all." She turned to face the alien ambassador. "We learned something that day. We learned that our greatest enemy was ourselves, our fear, our anger, our pride. These things nearly killed us." "So you stopped fighting?" asked. Sira shook her head. "No, we realized that we could not stop fighting. The universe is dangerous. There will always be threats, always be enemies. If we want to survive, we must be ready to fight." She gestured at the ship around them. "But we also learned that fighting is not enough. We must have something worth fighting for. These children, these families, these gardens, they remind us why we built this ship. Not to destroy, but to protect." Chief Engineer joined them, her hands still dirty from work. She was a short woman with bright eyes and messy hair, and she looked at with friendly curiosity. "Ambassador, would you like to see the engine room?" she asked. Agreed, and led them deep into the heart of the ship. The engine room was enormous, filled with machines that hummed with power. Explained that the ship's reactor could power a small planet. Its shields could stop weapons that would destroy a moon. Its manufacturing systems could build new fighters and repair any damage. This ship could survive alone for 50 years, said proudly. We carry enough resources to maintain ourselves indefinitely. If Earth disappeared tomorrow, we could rebuild our civilization from this ship alone. That is what frightens the Council, said slowly. Not your weapons, your independence. You do not need us. You do not need anyone. Sira nodded. We have learned to need only ourselves, Ambassador. Trust is hard for humans. We have been betrayed too many times, mostly by each other. She placed a gentle hand on shoulder. But we want to learn to trust others. We want allies, not servants, partners, not subjects. We came to the stars looking for friends. Was quiet for a long moment. She thought about everything she had seen. The weapons, yes, but also the gardens. The soldiers, yes, but also the children. These humans were contradictions wrapped in metal and fire. They were warriors who grew flowers. They were killers who raised families. They were the most dangerous species she had ever encountered, and also, somehow, the most hopeful. I think I understand now, she said finally. You are afraid, not of us, of yourselves, of what you could become. So you surround yourselves with life to remind yourselves to be human. Sira smiled and for the first time saw tears in her eyes. Yes, Ambassador, that is exactly it. We carry our children on warships because we never want to forget why we fight. We fight so that they can live, so that they can grow up in peace, so that they never have to make the choices we have made. She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. Now, shall we talk about the future? I believe the Council has some decisions to make. Nodded slowly. Yes, Chancellor, I believe they do, and I think I know what I will recommend. Together they walked back toward the shuttle bay, human and alien, former strangers, possible friends. Behind them, the children continued to play, their laughter filling the great ship with hope. The vote took 3 days. The council members argued, shouted, whispered, and bargained. Some wanted to reject the humans entirely. Some wanted to accept them immediately. Most were somewhere in between, afraid of what humanity could do, but also afraid of what might happen if they made enemies of such a powerful species. Ambassador spoke for 5 hours. She told the council everything she had seen on the unyielding dawn. She described the gardens and the schools, the families and the children. She explained the human philosophy of protecting life by being ready to take it. Some council members laughed at her. Others listened carefully. High Speaker was the hardest to convince. He had built his entire life on the idea that strength came from conquest. The humans challenged everything he believed. They were strong, stronger than anyone he had ever met, but they did not want to conquer. It made no sense to him. On the 3rd day, he asked to speak with Chancellor Sira privately. They met in a small room off the main council chamber, just the two of them, warrior and diplomat. I do not understand you, admitted. His pride was wounded, but he was honest. You could have attacked us. With ships like yours, you could take whatever you want. Why do you not? Sira sat across from him, her hands folded calmly in her lap. High Speaker, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you conquered us? If you took our worlds, enslaved our people, what would you gain? Thought about it. Resources, workers, territory. And what would you lose? He had no answer for that. You would lose us, Sira said softly. Our ideas, our creativity, our art, our science. You would gain slaves who hate you, not partners who help you. You would spend endless resources keeping us down instead of building something better together. She leaned forward. We humans tried conquest, High Speaker. We conquered each other for thousands of years, and we learned that it never works. The conquered always rise up eventually. The hatred never dies. The cycle of violence never ends. So you stopped conquering. We stopped believing that conquest was the answer. We still fight when we must. We still kill when we must. But we do not seek to rule others. We seek to live beside them. She smiled. The unyielding dawn is our answer to the universe. It says we are here, we are strong, and we will not be victims. But it also says we do not want to make victims of others. Was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost respectful. "I have conquered 100 worlds," he said. "I have killed millions. I have built the greatest military power in the galaxy." He looked at his armored hands. "And I am tired. I am tired of war. I am tired of death. I am tired of watching my soldiers die for land that we do not need." He looked up at her. "If your way works, if you can be strong without conquest, I would like to learn how." Sira reached out and took his hand. It was a simple gesture, human and alien touching for the first time. "Then let us teach each other, High Speaker. You know things we do not. We know things you do not. Together, we might build something neither of us could build alone." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was accepted into the Galactic Council as a full member with all rights and privileges. There were no conditions, no restrictions, no special rules. The humans were equals. The ceremony was held in the great crystal dome of Nexus Prime. Leaders from 12 species gathered to welcome the 13th. Chancellor Sira stood at the center, dressed in simple gray, surrounded by beings of every shape and color. Admiral Park watched through a holographic link from the bridge of the Unyielding Dawn. His crew had gathered around the main screen to see this moment. Lieutenant stood beside him, tears running down her face. Lieutenant Commander was smiling for the first time in months. Chief Engineer had brought her young daughter to watch. "Today," the council speaker announced, "we welcome humanity to our family. They have shown us strength and wisdom. They have defended our people against a terrible enemy. They have offered friendship instead of war." The speaker turned to Sira. "Chancellor, do you accept this invitation on behalf of your species?" Sira bowed her head. "On behalf of Earth and all her children, I accept. We pledge to honor this alliance, to defend our partners, and to work together for a future of peace and prosperity." She looked up, her eyes shining. "We have traveled far to reach this moment. We have overcome our own darkness to stand here in the light. We are humanity, and we are proud to call you friends." The chamber erupted in applause, clicks, whistles, and 100 other sounds of celebration. Sira was surrounded by council members offering congratulations. High Speaker was the first to reach her. He did not shake her hand. He bowed deeply, a gesture of respect that his people only gave to the greatest warriors. On the Unyielding Dawn, Admiral turned to his crew. "Well done," he said simply. "All of you, well done." Lieutenant received a message from Earth Command on her console. She read it and laughed. "Sir, they want to know when we will be coming home." Looked out at the stars. So many of them, so many possibilities, so many adventures waiting to be had. He thought about Earth, the blue world where he was born. He thought about his wife, who had died 5 years ago, and his children, who served on other ships throughout human space. He thought about all the people who had worked so hard to bring humanity to this moment. "Tell them," he said slowly, "that home is not a place. Home is where we stand together, where we protect each other, where we build something worth protecting." He smiled, a rare expression on his weathered face. "Tell them that wherever humanity goes, that is home." The Unyielding Dawn turned slowly in space, its running lights bright against the darkness. Around it, council ships flew in formation, no longer watching with fear but flying alongside with friendship. The first chapter of humanity's galactic story had ended. Below, on the observation deck, Chief Engineer held her daughter up to the window. The little girl pressed her hands against the glass, staring at the alien ships with wonder in her eyes. "Mama," she asked, "are those our friends now?" Smiled and hugged her daughter close. "Yes, little one, those are our friends. We have many friends now." She pointed at the stars beyond the ships. "And out there somewhere we will find more. That is what we do. We reach out, we make friends, we build things together." The little girl nodded seriously as if she understood. Perhaps she did. Perhaps she understood better than anyone. She was the future. She was what they fought for. She was the reason they had built this great ship and sailed it into the unknown. The Unyielding Dawn moved forward into the endless night, carrying humanity toward whatever came next. Behind it, the past faded away. Ahead, the future waited, full of danger and promise. And humanity, as always, was ready.